Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You're back at the parking lot. The stoke's high. You're talking bikes, nutrition, tech, progression, jumps, drops. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you today?
Man, I am doing so good, Danny. The weather has been unbelievable, unseasonably unbelievable. So yeah, lots of good riding. I hope everybody's getting out to ride their bike. Danny, how are you doing?
I am also doing very well. And we had here in the Northeast, we had like torrential rain, and I guess all the East Coast had this tropical storm that came through. And so we didn't ride. And then all of a sudden it cleared up and the temperature dropped by like 10 or 15 degrees. And it's just been beautiful. And so we are taking some days off and getting some extra rides in really for the first time this summer that work. And the weather has cooperated and we are grabbing those days. But before we get into our rides, we should talk about, as always, gratitude to our listeners. And thank you.
I love it.
And we will get into some listener comments. So we are reviewing Ride and Laugh podcast number 26. Can bikes and gear make you better? Do you need a new bike to level up your skills? And also the hot takes, the Ride and Laugh hot takes. For that week of podcast was fear response, turn off your fear response on the trail. And does bike equal skills? Question mark. Has a mountain bike ever increased your confidence and skills? So essentially that new bike question or that different type of bike question. And we saw Snowplow Joe at Blue Mountain and he was renting a downhill bike. And he commented on one of the hot takes saying that the downhill rental definitely felt like a level up, although he didn't like the tire setup on the bike. So, you know, when you rent, you take the good and the bad. You might not get the tires that you want, or maybe they're a little bit worn. We'd have to get more detail from Joe on that. But what are your thoughts on renting a downhill bike and seeing what that feels like at the bike park?
You know, I'm all over the place on this one, Danny. I desperately want to try a downhill bike just because I want to know what that dual crown feels like. But the rental, you know, you hear so many nightmare stories about rentals, you know, but especially at a place like Blue Mountain, you know, where it is especially rough.
How long does it take to adjust to a bike? I mean, when we don't go to a bike park enough, and I feel like most of the people that are renting bikes probably aren't regular riders, but I mean, it takes a while to warm up to each park. I feel like we're not park rats yet, but it's also then adjusting to a different bike. Right. And so there's a comfort in having your bike, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think the bike park is actually the ideal place to rent because you know the trail, you're riding the same trail every time. Yeah. And especially on a downhill bike where you can't really pedal, it's probably the best place to try that out.
I'd like to try it. From what I've heard, feedback that I've heard watching YouTube where people have tried downhill bikes at bike parks, the main, other than I'm sure it's just a much smoother ride, and then maybe does that give you confidence? You know, so listeners, let us know if you've tried a downhill bike or if you have a downhill bike, does that give you confidence? Because there's just that added suspension, so it mutes the trail a little bit more, does it? And then I remember watching one YouTube where she was saying that, I think it was Yuka, Fangirl Yuka, and she was saying that the extra suspension gave her more confidence that she could case these bigger jumps and ride away. And because she had that more confidence, she was sending the bigger jumps and clearing them. So it really, you know, like Joe said, adding confidence, but in a way that is almost more psychological than actual physical.
Yeah. And you know, kudos to Yuka. I mean, she sends it, man. She is unbelievable. I mean, she was oftentimes, I know her and Brian aren't together anymore, but man, she would often send it before he did. Excuse me, Eric.
Eric's like, Brian? Oh, man.
But, you know, I had a question, though. If you rent a bike, like a downhill bike at a bike park, will they put on your pedals or do you have to ride flats?
I would think they would put on whatever pedals you want. When I demoed at Pivot, when I rode the demo bike, like part of the process of the online process of signing up for a demo bike is clicking what type of pedals you want.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then I got to tell you, yeah, if you have not been to a bike park yet, no excuse. I mean, they'll hook you up with whatever pedals. I mean, I don't know how much a rental is, but it can't be. Well, yeah, I don't even want to guess because it could be expensive. I have no idea. Listeners, let us know.
It probably is. Yeah, you'd have to rent. You'd have to rent you'd have to rent the bike and a helmet if you've never been.
Well, you could.
But we see
could
people
do a half show.
I mean, can you do a half? I guess you could.
You could.
I don't know what the rules are.
Could. No, you
We've
absolutely
seen
could do a
people
half show.
on hardtails. I took a hardtail to Mountain Creek on your recommendation, and it was actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
Get into that a little bit later, but the geo on that thing was on my Banshee. It was so slacked out and was more slack than at the time my current full suspension, and I think it really did help unlock jumping. Maybe we get you an aggressive hardtail. Maybe we got to bring your fat bike to the bike park. You talk about the single speed. Let's get the fat bike out there. Talk about being scared of casing. You case a jump on the fat bike, you are to bounce like 30 feet in the air. Yeah.
So true.
You need people jump onto onto the airbag. You need the airbag for after the bounce.
Yes.
The fat bike will bounce from the jump onto the airbag.
Yeah. The only place that you could bring the fat bike would be Creek because you don't have a tray to load it into. You ain't fitting those fat bike tires on the on a mountain bike tray.
My gosh.
Yeah.
The looks you would get. But to my original point is you could bring a hardtail to a downhill park, and we've seen people with their cross country bikes. We've seen, almost entry level hardtails, certainly entry level full suspension bikes. There's, at a bike park, you have all sorts of different trails.
Yeah.
From, lots of greens and blues, and all the jumps are rollable. So if you're thinking like, oh, I've never been to a bike park and I'm curious, if you're bike park curious, I would absolutely encourage you to check it out. But yeah, and if you enjoy it, then maybe rent a downhill bike. Let us know how it goes.
Yes.
If you take your fat bike, definitely we want to see pictures. RideLife1 at Gmail.
Please, yes.
All right. So another comment we got was from one of our favorite and top commenters, Zan at Sploosh MTB. He's got his YouTube channel. Check that out. And talking about the progression that you get from riding a new bike. And he said he went through a dramatic bike change recently. He went from a large high tower to a XXL Stumpy Evo.
Okay.
So we are both, Zan is a lanky like me. I believe he's around my height. I ride an XL Evo. He's on the XXL. My bike's long, so his bike is really long. But he said, so he went from a large to a XXL, and he said that he realizes his old bike was probably too small. And so rowing the bigger bike through tech feels different. But he's really digging the new bike and relearning timing on precise movements since the bike's so much longer. But really hitting big jumps and fast tech because it's so slacked out is giving him more confidence. And if anyone that's watched Zan's Sploosh MTB videos, I feel like he is sending it. I mean, on that Albatross trail at the shed, like he's sending these gap jumps with a lot of confidence. He gets to the top of the jump and he looks at it to see whether or not it's too big, and he says, "It goes." That's what I noticed his term is. It goes.
That's right.
It goes. That's what he and his friends say. Yes. It goes. That means it goes. I'm going is what it means. Yeah. So. Yeah. I thought that was interesting, and so he's on a bike even bigger than me. I like a big bike also, but I like my big bikes to be a little on the small size. So I'm on the XL Evo, and my Firebird is actually a large.
Oh,
so we do I like it to be a little bit flickable. I like it to have a little bit of playfulness, and because we do focus so much on tech. So and they're so long already, but I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit more of that length to have a little bit more maneuverability. But I feel like my Evo's like crazy long anyway. So, but thank you, Zan, for writing in as always. Yeah. And then we had our buddy Pat, Rusty Chain, and he wrote in. He was talking about the song when we were talking about the song that we were kind of like playing a song in our head during the bike park, and that was helping get into the flow, right? And so Rusty Chain was saying, "Oh yeah, that's you have to be careful of the last song that you hear right before you get onto the trails, because that's probably going to be the song that's in your head." Yep. And That's happened to me so many times where the last song I heard, I get out, I ride, and that song's kind of in the background in my head the whole time. And then I get in the car, I'm not thinking about it. And, the car turns on, the radio turns on, the playlist is exactly where it was. And the song that was in my head for 3 hours, just is halfway done. And I'm like, oh, of course. But I'm also kind of stoked.
Yeah.
But have you ever gotten out of the car and it's the wrong song? And you're like, oh, no, I got this song.
God. Yeah. That happens all the time. You know what? You know who's the biggest culprit of that? Stick. Because he plays in the band. He's always singing something, and it's always getting stuck in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But I love when Stick sings on the trail. If you have a professional singer singing on the trail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So I don't mind. Stick can sing whatever he wants on the trail. I'm like, we got a professional lead singer. Former Strangers. The cover band of all cover bands. And the dude rides with us and he's singing. This is like front row seats.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we're about to get ready to do a feature and he's singing Eye of the Tiger. I mean, I'm in, baby.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting some of his backup singers to, ride behind us. How awesome would that be?
In stereo. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting the band back together on mountain bikes.
On mountain bikes. Yeah.
Former Strangers mountain bike team. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, this is the time in the pod. This is the second time in the pod, and we will do it a million more times where we give gratitude to our listeners and appreciation to our listeners. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
If you're listening, you love mountain bikes, and you have incredible and wonderful taste in podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So thank you for rating and subscribing on your podcast player. If you haven't done so, please go in and give us a 5-star review on your podcast player and on YouTube. And on Apple Podcast, if you are an Apple listener, you can actually go in and leave a review. So we will pick our favorite review of the week and we will read it on the podcast. And since we've been asking, people have been delivering. So thank you, listeners, for going in and rating and subscribing. It really helps the algorithm, helps really get the podcast out there. And when we get the Ride and Laugh podcast out there, Sage, we're getting more stoke out there. We're getting more progression out there. We're getting more vibes out there. This is good for the world. The world needs more Ride and Laugh.
Hey, people say it to us all the time. It's like the vibe is high, and it does put you in a really good mood.
Yeah,
not to toot our own hand. Yeah.
come vibe with us. Toot toot. Let's edit that part out. Okay, I think we can eliminate what is not a t-shirt. Come vibe with us. Toot toot.
Toot toot.
I was tooting our own horn. Did you?
Yes, you were.
Yeah. Which is, now that I say it, it's not a great phrase. Tooting our own horn. You know what I mean? Like
no.
Yeah.
You don't want to be tooting anything.
Toots. Yeah. Yeah. Certainly, if we're tooting our own horn, you don't want to be riding behind us. Here we go again.
No.
With the
breaking wind.
Breaking wind. All right. Well, our Apple Podcast review of the week is by a name that I cannot pronounce. So I think when you go in to do the Apple Podcast reviews, you have to put a username in because there's all sorts of random names that don't. Yeah. So whoever left this review, it's an awesome review, and go ahead and leave in the YouTube comments or Gmail. Let us know who you are, because I'm not pronouncing this name. It seems to have too many vowels and things in the wrong place, and it's just set up to make me look. I can look dumb enough by myself. I don't need to read this name. But the title is Great Mountain Bike Podcast. Feels like you're hanging around the lot after a great day of riding.
Okay.
And then the review says, Sage and Dan's infectious positive energy, genuineness, and friendship shine through in audio form and on the YouTube channel. Awesome content and even better, guys. Keep up the great work, gents.
All right, then. Toot, toot.
Not getting any better than that. Toot. A toot, toot. Yes.
Yes.
All
that
right.
is a double tutor for sure.
Yeah. I'm not digging the toot theme. What do you think?
It's starting to grow on me, man.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Toot away. You're in that room by yourself. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about our rides because, as I mentioned earlier, it rained for half of the week and then it cleared up beautifully. And so there was a pretty bad storm and a lot of trees were down. And so we thought, hey, the bike park will probably be pretty clear. And our local bike park called Blue Mountain, and I'm wearing the hat, Blue Mountain representing.
Hey now.
Our local bike park does not get super crowded on the weekends. You can still go on the weekend.
Yeah.
Sage and I do not like waiting in lift lines. Notoriously, we will go to bike parks on weekdays, but they're not really all that busy on the weekend, or it's spread out enough that the line doesn't get terribly long. And so we thought, okay, well, the bike park will probably be clear. So we went to the bike park and we brought a friend.
Yes, Terry. Yes, one of my Patreon supporters and Ride and Laugh listener. And it was great. Yeah, he met us up there, and man, he's a good rider, man. He had that moto background. It was just, it was really, it was such a pleasure to watch.
Jumper background.
Yo, yeah. How many times have we seen that? You know, BMX and moto seem to be a really good background. So yeah, if you're into moto and BMX, pick up a mountain bike. You'll be instantly amazing.
Yeah, I'm always so jealous of the guys that have that motorcycle background or the BMX background. A lot of the trials obviously trials background, but a lot of times those things go hand in hand. But the motorcycle guys are usually pretty comfortable in the air, and Terry certainly was, and he was very, very strong at cornering, and he had a nice bike. And he was a really cool guy, just pleasure to hang out with. So pretty cool. He's a listener and a Trail Sage Patreon member, and reached out and he joined us for a day at the bike park, and it was really cool. It was really good riding with him. And Blue Mountain has a new drop on their Black Diamond jump trail, and it's the biggest drop in the park. So the Blue Mountain, they've been adding a lot. They really do a lot of work on that mountain. There's new trails, there's new features popping up. So they closed for a Spartan race in the middle of the summer. And when they opened back up, there's this awesome new drop. Tell us about it.
Oh, man, it's big. It's really big. And you and I had looked at this on Instagram, and I did the typical couch muscles. I'm like, it doesn't look big at all. Man, I got up to this thing and I was like, oh my goodness, it's quite large. It is quite large.
So it's a new feature. It cuts out 2 turns that slowed you down. So instead of slowing down, it sends you fast.
That's right.
As you approach this thing, so this is the first time a lot of people are seeing it because it's brand new. And so as you approach it, there's riders off to the side, and everyone's looking at it, and people are walking up onto it. And it's one of those where it looks like as you approach it, you just see sky. The trail is below it. So as you're coming up to it, you just see sky. And so there's no spot you're landing until you're going off of it. And sometimes other drops, you have a little bit more vision of the trail. So this thing looked very intimidating. And then when you actually stand next to it, it's like, wow, that's really far. You really don't want to case it. The landing is relatively steep. So it's a nice landing. It's a big landing, but you can also oversend it. So you don't want to, you have to clear it, but you don't want to go so fast that you send to flat.
Yes.
And then, so we're all looking at it, and then we see some riders go off of it, and basically everyone was going too fast, it looked like.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get nervous. I'm very comfortable doing drops, but just this thing, I was just I don't know. I thought I was going to do it today. I thought it was a home run, but I'm starting to get nervous. Yeah. And I'm looking at it, and then I see you push your bike up to the top. And you got that look in your eyes, and I was like, "Oh, are you going to do it first?" So I've learned. Anyone who's listening to Drunk on Confidence episode, I've learned if Sage wants to go first, I'm letting him go first because he's very good, and I'm not too proud. So what was your mindset? What were you thinking as you prepared to hit this drop? That everyone is standing around looking. Now people were doing it in the flow of the ride, but most of the guys that were just standing around looking. There was one other guy that was pushing back and trying it, and he kept going. He said he kept going too fast. So what was your process to get locked in to go and send this thing? And how did you know the speed?
Well, first, let me say, while you were talking, I looked up my text message to Kristen. She said it was 11 to 12 up and 20 out. So that's quite a distance. Yeah, it's a pretty big job. So to answer your question,
thank you, Kristen.
When we were there, we asked Phil, first of all, if there's a place to kind of pull off to the side to look at this thing, because you don't want to just send it your first time. And he said, yeah. So when we got there, we kind of pulled off to the side, and I think probably within like a couple minutes, we saw at least 2 or 3 people go off of this thing. And
Phil did tell us the speed.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And the people that we saw go off it were going much faster, and they caught the very end of the landing. So
yeah,
that was good to see, but it was also nerve wracking to see, because it was like, oh man, speed, you have to get that speed just right. And like I said, when I looked at this thing, my first thought was, holy crap. But then my next thought was, yeah, we got this. We absolutely have it. And I guess if you're looking at the drop, if you're looking right down the gully of it, if you look to the right, there's a little like dirt pad that's off the trail. And it's actually the perfect spot, because you can see, if you look to your left, you can see people coming down the trail. So you know that you're not like, pulling off and, getting someone's way. So I walk my bike up there, and lo and behold, a crowd starts to gather, because everybody, this is the morning. It's the morning. So it's like everyone's first look at the drop, and everybody wants to know. And, I did that same thing at Hans Ray. I was just about to go, and then 2 people walked up onto the drop, and I was like, oh, I got to reset, which again, is not a big deal as long as you have a routine, So for me, it was just, okay, rebuild that routine. And, you know what, the look, I don't know what the look is that you say that I give, but I remember Terry was with us, and he was asking me all sorts of questions. And the one, I don't know what I look like when you say I have the look, but I do know that I get really quiet, which is odd for me, because I'm a talker and I love to talk. But when I'm about to do something big,
very serious looking. Like you're also very smiley. You're very friendly. You're very approachable. Right. Your energy is very open all the time. Like, hey, come say hi. I'm trail safe. Until you're like locking in, and then it's like totally straight faced, like just totally zen, very quiet. And like there's like deep breathing, and like your energy, the vibe is definitely like, leave me alone. I'm getting locked in here. And so I always like kind of back off when I see that. I'm like, it's happening.
You were pulling Terry. You were like, Terry, come on. It's happening. Terry.
Ixnay on the Hawking Tay. He's going to send it for us. He's going to tell us the speed.
Yes.
This is for us, Terry.
That's right. Yeah. But I have to say, it was nerve wracking being the first. But at the same time, I also felt really confident about it, So I got up there. Once the guys cleared off the deck, I sat there and I listened to my heartbeat. That's the one thing I do. I breathe, I exhale everything out, and I try and slow my heart rate way down, like as low as I can get into a really calm space. And then I just empty the brain, and then it's off to the races. And it's a funny saying to say, because you're doing anything but racing. You don't want to race down this thing. You have to go at a really slow speed. And I got to tell you,
commitment. You're going full commit. Yes.
At a very slow speed. I like how you
just say, I just empty the brain. Like that's the problem for most people. That like is the emptying of the brain. And I have so many techniques to get into that Zen state and that flow state. And you're able to just kind of breathe it out. I know you take a deep breath, you exhale all the way. I've seen you do this, which is a real technique. There's real breathing techniques. There's science behind that, I think.
Yeah.
And then and then it's full commit. There's no the run-ups are over. It's go time. And so how did you determine what speed you were going to go? It's just from watching the other riders?
That was the tough part, Danny, because Phil had told us that once you get over the step up, you don't need a pedal crank. If you get up onto the step up, just ride it out. And that's the right speed.
What is a step up? Explain quickly what a step up jump is.
So a step up is basically how would you describe it? It's the front face of a jump, but instead of having a landing on the other side, you're actually going up to like a platform.
The landing is higher than the jump. I'm sorry. I'll just step in and explain it. Okay. The landing's higher than the jump. So
that's right.
You can go really fast on a step up jump, and then you land and you're stepping up. A step down jump, the landing is lower than the jump. And so that's kind of feels like a drop. They're a little bit, I think they're more difficult because you can't see the landing.
That's right.
When you're approaching the jump. But on a step up, you can often see the landing because it's higher.
That's right.
So you're going really fast into a step up jump. This step up jump, you can go when you're going trail speed, which is after there's a step down and then a straightaway and then the step up. And the step up, after you hit it, we didn't know this at the time, but after you hit the step up, really at perfect speed, you're really just kind of lightly rolling down into this drop at that point.
Yes.
So, but we didn't know the speed. So you went with whatever speed you thought was appropriate.
That's right.
And I don't want to speak for you. How did it feel?
It felt really good. And there was just like going up to it. I knew the speed, but I put in a couple extra strokes because I knew there was plenty of landing. So I gave myself probably 2 or 3 easy strokes coming down it. And man, once I touched down, I was toot toot, and I turned around to Danny and I was just like, yo, it's butter. Yeah. It's butter. Yeah. And that was it, man.
Really good. You looked really good. Man. You looked really smooth. And then as soon as you were like, oh, Danny, it's so smooth as butter. You got this. And I was like, all right, I'm up.
We got it.
That was that was it. That was it. That was the confidence I needed. Terry decided that he just wanted to follow me in, which in retrospect, maybe not a great idea because I didn't know the speed, So I kind of messed them up because my first go at it, I think I put in we were like talking about the amount. It's a very short runway. We were talking about the amount of pedal strokes, and I think we had settled on 3 was right if you were coming from a dead stop. And so I think I did 4 or 5, and then I was like, oh, I'm going too fast. And so I squeezed brake right before I went off of it, because I love the brake check. Anyone that's been to a bike park or done jumps or drops and you get scared, what do? You slow down, right? Yeah. Well, that's not a good idea on a drop with a huge gap. And so I went just a little too slow off of it, and I had an OS moment.
Yeah, you did.
As soon as I went off of it, I was just like, oh no, this is not fast enough. And the bike just by a centimeter, thank you, universe, just cleared. Yes. I mean, maybe made a little bit of a clunking noise, maybe a little, but I knew it was too close. I could hear everyone that was watching just be like, oh, he's okay. And then poor Terry's going my speed behind me. So he did the same exact thing. He had the same exact experience of like, oh no, this is too slow. So as soon as we got down, I turned to Terry and I was like, we got to do that again. I apologize. I went too slow. We got to do that again. And so we went right back up, and I get on the pedals and I was like, all right, you want to follow me again? He said, I'm going to follow you again. And this time I had the speed perfect and I didn't brake and I nailed it. And poor Terry, because he had gone too slow on the first one, decided on the second one where the speed was plenty that in his brain, he was like, I better pull up because I almost front cased this thing last time, but now we're going faster. And so when you see the video, I hit it perfect and he just goes Terry front wheel way too high. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But he pulled it out. He's got the skills. The skills are in there. He pulled it out. So he had 2 where he didn't do it properly and he still rode away fine. And then we rode that trail the rest of the day. We probably rode it 6 or 7 more times, and we hit that drop in the flow of the ride, and all 3 of us were hitting it perfectly. Sometimes a little bit faster, a little bit slower, but catching the landing perfectly. And it was butter. It was really smooth. And so once you get that first one in you, and then it just started to feel better and better and better, and then it disappears where it's not a thing anymore. So it went from being this albatross to just being in the flow of that ride. And it was really cool. It was really well built. Kudos to Blue Mountain, and thank you for continuing to build and improve your trails. I was shocked when I saw that. It's just really cool. And thank you to Sage for being like, I got this. I'm going to send it. I know the speed. And you just unlocked it. For a guy that's scared of jumping, sometimes used to be scared of jumping, your confidence on the drop was awesome and commendable, and it definitely unlocked me and Terry when we saw our buddy do it and say, "Yeah, you got this." So that was that was really cool. So really good job.
Right on, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it felt good. It felt good. I don't know that I would feel comfortable letting someone follow me in. So that's kudos to you. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. If I'm doing something for the first time, I usually. I'm not a follow guy, and I don't like people following me, until I get the run down, I don't know.
I think Terry would have been better off waiting until until the second one, until I felt good.
Yeah.
But But I understand. Like, I like to follow because I like to know the speed. He was following a guy who didn't know the speed, so that therein was the problem. But after that, he followed me plenty of times, and I didn't let him down.
Oh, yeah.
So it went well.
Yes.
Now, after the, excuse me, I got like a Charlie horse. That's what I was talking. After the drop, there are a series of 5 really big, mega bike park lippy jumps.
Yeah.
And I have had pretty good success on these jumps in the past. It's hard to nail down the speed. And it used to be that coming out of the turns, you had to really get on the pedals to be able to clear the first one. Now that the drop goes into it, you pick up a ton of speed. And Phil said to squeeze the brake a little bit. I don't want to get into like the nuts and bolts of our little local bike park that much. But what happened was the drop just changed the speed. And so now on the first jump, everyone was oversending it. And then the second jump, you're not getting the timing on the first jump down right. So it did kind of like mess with the speed. I think you might do a trail stage video on the drop. That would be cool because I think our local riders would really like to see that. But it did take a while to start dialing in the speed to get the rest of the jumps. But it was a really fun day overall. And a lot of success on jumping on Lower Empire. I felt really good, and I got some of those Upper Empire jumps and getting that drop under us. And Terry hadn't even done the previous drop up until that point.
That's right.
So
that's right.
He did the 2 biggest drops on the mountain in that same day. So it was an awesome day of progression.
That always does feel good when you're able to show somebody a line with confidence, and that felt really good to tow them into that first drop. And I think everybody can relate to that experience of just being able to share that stoke, like, yo, we've done it. We're confident. Just follow our speed and it's going to be butter. And as soon as he hit it, he was like, yo, butter, and that's what you want. You want to, that whole day was like that. It was just like, we turned around. It was just high fives and fist bumps. And that's what a bike park day is.
Yeah, and that's what a good day on the bike is. And I think just showing your local trails into someone who hasn't seen them before, whether it be tack or drops or jumps, and saying like, I know this line, follow this. This is going to be fun. That's a great feeling. And that's part of what mountain biking is, that mountain bike community where we're getting stoked for each other and we're helping each other progress. And, so Terry was driving home. There's a great feeling when you're driving home from a bike park and you checked off 2 features. Oh, I'd never done that drop before, and I did that other drop, and we felt good doing the big drop, and you were clearing the first jump on Upper Empire that you hadn't cleared before. So
that's right.
Yeah, things are getting unlocked. Things, progression. It's not always linear. It doesn't always happen, but at a bike park, you got a pretty good chance. If you're riding well and you're confident, you got a pretty good chance of doing something you haven't done or doing something better. So really, really cool day.
Yeah. Well, speaking of doing things that you haven't done, we went to Rocky Ridge, and I was finally able to show you some of the stuff that I had done with the Slanted Ground group that you hadn't ridden yet.
Yeah, you had ridden the Rocky Ridge, which is in Lancaster, which is kind of like the almost maybe mid Pennsylvania, but it's a great place. It's got a ton of really cool rock features and a really cool trail building. And so Sage has ridden there more than me, and you did a ride with some locals, the Slanted Ground group ride, Slanted Ground, Josh's Slanted Ground. Check out his apparel, awesome stuff, and his YouTube channel and his Instagram page. Great guy and great rider. But so you did that YouTube video with those guys, and you found a bunch of these features. And so when we had a day that was open, it's not terribly far away. So it's one of those day trips that we can kind of do without having to be in the car all day. And so we pull into the parking lot, and almost right away, Sage is recognized by Jess. And so she says, and she was on that Slanted Ground ride.
That's right.
And so she says, you mind if I ride with you guys? We're like, yeah, of course. That would be great.
Yeah.
So, and she was on her husband's e-bike. So she was on an e-bike that was way big for her because she was actually just scouting out. She's an instructor, and she was scouting out some areas to do some an instruction the following day.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So some of the features that we did that stand out. I mean, we did all the huck to flat drops. There's several trails there that are just, they're awesome. But it's just like huck to flat, huck to flat, huck to flat, huck to flat. Maybe there's a landing, but very rarely is the landing like build up significantly. I don't know that the park wants it, but man, these drops are fun. I mean, it's just like, it's drop central.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good point, Danny. That if we had to describe Rocky Ridge, the features are natural, and because of that, and because they don't want to draw attention to it, there aren't landings. So this place is just notorious. Every drop is pretty much a huck to flat, with the exception of a few landings here and there. And I think that's probably purposely done. And you might have places around you that are like that, where it's like very natural, and so it might be more huck to flat versus somewhere like a Mount Penn or even a bike park where things are purpose built. This isn't purpose built. This is kind of like a very raw, right at your own risk type of situation.
Yeah. What's your feeling on the huck to flat? And listeners, let us know. RideandLaugh1 at Gmail and in the comments. What's your feeling on the huck to flat? I mean, is it, if it's the best you can get, it's the best you can get, right? But there's a technique to it. It's jarring.
Yeah.
What's the technique, Sage? What's your technique?
My technique is I usually it's one of two things. I'm either going really slow or I'm going really fast. Because if you go really slow, then you can kind of pedal kick it and take a little bit of the jarringness out of it. If you need some speed, then the faster you go, the less jarring it gets. The problem with Rocky Ridge, and maybe some of our listeners can relate to this, is the drops are in succession. And so you can't go too fast, because if you go too fast, you won't be able to get onto the next rock, to do the next drop. Yeah. So you do have to measure the speed into it. But the key is you always want to land both tires at the same time. That's the key.
Yes.
So even if you have to do a little pedal kick, you want to time that so you're both hitting at the same time. You don't want to go back tire first, because then you get a front slap. And if you go front tire first, well, that can be really scary. So yeah, that's the idea between going on a huck to flat. And you get really good at it by riding there. That's for sure.
Yeah, you get a lot of practice on it. Let us know, listeners, what are your thoughts on huck to flat? What's your technique if you have a better technique than us? The goal is to get both tires down at the same time and use that suspension and use your arms and legs as suspension. But it doesn't always happen. A lot of times one wheel is hitting down first, or you're getting a little bit off center, and you just flow with it as best you can. And I'm sure the more you do it, the better you get at it. So, but Rocky Ridge that's a really fun place. It's got some really fun trails, some pretty big drops as far as the huck to flat goes. There's some pretty big ones.
Oh yeah.
And pretty intimidating, but it's a good place to practice. It'd be a great place for an e-bike because the climb up is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
But then the downhills are really good and long and fun for Northeast at least. And then, so you showed me like a slab that you had found, that Slanted Ground guys had showed you, that was really steep and relatively short. Big G out. We talked about G outs in earlier pods, so you have to go back and listen to the G out explanation, which is essentially when you go from like really, really steep to flat. So you're G'ing out like in a jet airplane. You get sucked up against the seat. So I pretty much like fully used. I followed you in blind on one of these. And it was really steep, and pretty much fully used my front suspension. So maybe lean back a tiny bit more. I was very well centered, but rode it out. And then the pop move. So this was like the weirdest looking move of the day. I thought it was incredibly intimidating looking. I couldn't wrap my brain around. I'll let you explain what it looked like and what you were telling me to do, and then we could talk about how it went. So what did this feature look like?
It's really hard to explain, but there's basically a slab that comes down, and there's another rock that's probably maybe 4 feet away from this slab. And right in between the two slabs, there is a tree. And I guess a tree had fallen because they cut off the top. So it's a flat tree stump in the middle of these two rocks. Stumps. Yes. And so the idea is, and I did this at the Slanted Ground ride. I saw it and I was like, wow, this looks like a really cool.
Oh, was that your idea?
Maneuver. Yeah, I saw it, and everybody was doing the drop, and the drop is like a 2-foot drop. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, but this looks really interesting. It looks intriguing. But it's so intimidating because there's a gap before the stump and there's a gap after it. So the move
and the stump is the same height as the rocks. So
it's a little bit higher.
Okay, it's a little bit higher, but essentially you're transferring from rock slab, 2 wheels
stump,
to 1 wheel onto the stump, front wheel onto the stump, to back wheel on the stump, and front wheel on the rock. And you kept saying, all you got to do is pop, pop. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, I don't know how to pop, pop. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to pop, pop. And so you showed me. And Jess is explaining it to me. She's an instructor. She's just a natural instructor. Her story, Jess's story is actually awesome. When I was asking how you ended up getting a bunch of mechanicals and it took a really long time trying to fix this tire. And so Jess and I had a lot of time. We were just sessioning this one area. She did a rock roll that she hadn't done before.
Yo, so good.
I didn't know. When I watched her go through it, and she was like, that was actually the first time I did that. And I was like, oh, I mean, we love being there to help people through a new feature, so that was
on a
awesome.
bike that was too big for her. It was unbelievable.
That bike, huge bike, really heavy, her husband's bike. And she's like muscling this thing around, and it's going, the move is going up a really steep, slab uphill. And then it's a very janky downhill where you have to go full commitment. And she was just kind of doing laps on this thing and not getting it a couple times, but because you were working on the tire, she just kept trying. And I had the camera out, and I didn't know she hadn't done it before. I was just coaching her on it, just encouraging her, and you got it, and commitment, and roll it. And the next thing you know, she's done. And she was like, oh, it's the first time I did that. But her story is really cool. If you're a beginner mountain biker and you live in Pennsylvania or in this area, especially central PA, look up Bush Bikes, right?
Yeah, Bush Bikes. Right? BUCH Bikes.
BUCH Bikes. We'll put a link in the show notes. Her story was that, she took a mountain bike class and she was so inspired by the instructor. And she got so stoked that she was just immediately got this intuition that I want to do this. I want to teach. I want to learn how to mountain bike. I want to teach. She started racing. She started riding all the time. She's at Rocky Ridge riding all the time. Her body position is great. You could tell she definitely knows what she's doing. And we have, in one of the videos I watched where she's going through a rock garden, the focus in her eyes, you can see her as she starts to come in, she's super, super dialed in, super focused. And, and so she just got right away, she just knew that she wanted to teach. And so she went and she got all the registrations, she got all the certifications, and she teaches kids and beginners. And I don't know what level up to she teaches, but she's just a really friendly person, really, really great vibe. So I'm sure it's a great class. If you're a beginner, you're in Pennsylvania, look up Bush Bikes. And she was just doing a 2-hour clinic the next day, and it's not even that expensive. I'm sure she does longer classes as well. But so when we were at the pop move, the rock to tree stump to rock, she's explaining to me how to do it. She can see it in her mind. She said, mind you, I can't do it. I'm not going to do this, but I can understand how to do it. So she's coaching me on how to do it, on how she sees it, which was actually quite helpful. She did definitely have a good visualization of how that was done. And then I watched you do it, and it still didn't really make sense to me. And I was like, I guess I'll just approach it and see how I feel. And I get up to the top, and I get getting ready to go. And I said, Sage, I got this, right? And you said,
it's the easiest thing you're going to do today.
Yeah. And I was like, well, wait a second. Okay. If he has that much confidence in me, I'm just going to stay low and keep my eyes up and just ride it the way and let instinct take over. And sure enough, and you guys kind of said it was like a log over where you pop up your front tire onto the top of a log and then pop your back tire over. And
that's right.
So I just rode it like that. I just popped onto it and then I popped off of it. It was, and I was like, it was totally a pop. It was great. But it's a really weird looking move. It's intimidating looking. It doesn't make sense. I still don't even really understand how I did it, but we did it. We put it on Instagram, and you can see it if you're watching the YouTube right now. You can certainly see it. And then so that was really cool. And then you just rode me through this other section where there's this huge gap between these two rocks, and there's a chasm underneath it.
Yes,
and a crevice, yes. And I had told you before that I'd seen that you rode it, and I was like, by the way, I have no interest in riding that. I don't want to fall down that thing. And so you say to me, just after we're riding, we're flowing, and you say to me, just follow me. Don't ask any questions. Just follow me.
Yeah, it's a trust me.
And trust it. Yeah. And I was like, don't, and as we're riding, and he's don't ask any questions, and I was like, oh, he's taking me to that death chasm. And sure enough, I just followed your line, and we did another pop, and went right over pop. Yep. It was it was the same move. And I said, if we had stopped and looked at that, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, nope,
Yeah.
risk reward. I'm not doing this. But we didn't. Just flowed through it, and it was no big deal, of course. So that was pretty cool too. It just shows you the power of momentum and confidence and flow
and trust, dude.
And trust. Yeah.
I know you well enough.
Listeners, when you go to a park or even a bike park and you're good at jumping, and you're good at drops, do you always, like, if you haven't been to the bike park in like a year, do you stop and look at the drops? Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. Do you stop and look at something? Say we were talking about like going to Mountain Creek and there's drops there that we've done before many times. And would we stop and look at some of these, or would we just flow into them? At Blue Mountain, we're not going to stop and look at the drop that we had done so many times. We never stopped and looked at that again. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know. We did when we took Stick through it, but that's because he wanted to see it.
Yeah. That's and just for a description, that is 8 foot up and 10 out. So it is significant. But we did that. We do that every time we're there. We don't need to look at it. Yeah. I think if you're at a bike park, you can always trust that there's probably not going to be debris. So it's one of those things where if you know the speed and you're familiar with it, just go for it. I wouldn't suggest that, at a rocky ridge, we stopped at every drop to make sure there wasn't debris, but at a bike park, you don't got to worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you get to a certain speed where it just feels like, do most drops at bike parks, are most drops the same speed? Just kind of like, is it designed where you're supposed to be going trail speed? Like, I can't think of a time when I've been to a bike park where someone has said, you need to really pedal into this and be going super fast on that drop. And we are not bike park experts. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail or YouTube comments. Have you been to bike parks where the drops are much higher than trail speed? Because I feel like if you roll into most of these, that's the right speed.
I'm gonna make a statement here that's probably gonna get completely blasted because it's probably incorrect. But I feel like a lot of drops are used as squirrel catchers to get into a big time trail. And so at Upper Empire, you have that 8 foot to 10 foot. And then right before the big jumps, you have that 11, 12 up and 20 out. If you look at Bryce, right before you get into Hooch, they have a massive drop. It's a great squirrel catcher. But not only is it a great squirrel catcher, it sets you up with the right speed. If you hit this drop and you catch landing, it's going to send you into that first jump perfectly. So it's a double purpose, right? It's a squirrel catcher. Maybe perfectly. If you can't do it. Maybe perfectly, right? Yeah.
At Blue Mountain, you're going too fast. Yeah.
Yeah, you might. Yeah. But so it serves as a good squirrel catcher, but then oftentimes it also gives you the right speed. And so, and the other thing that bike parks will do, and I'm sorry, this is going a little bit off of the topic, but some bike parks will also put a double in. And so if you're able to clear the double, that's the right trail speed for the next jump. So those are two ways that people at bike parks and trail builders can kind of get you in the right frame set of like, what's the right speed here? If you clear the double, okay, that's usually a good sign that you're ready for whatever the next thing is that requires the certain amount of speed. The drop, same thing. Now, I could be completely wrong. Someone could just be like, nah, the drops are just there. But I feel like that's very common that you find a drop at the opening of a line, excuse me.
The opening lion?
Toot, toot. It's a toot lion.
We got lions. We got trains. I think that's very, very astute observation. I think that's very insightful. I think that you are spot on. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail or in the YouTube comments. Is Sage correct? Are drops technically, or you and trail builders let us know, but are drops at bike parks and even on trail systems, are drops often used as a squirrel catcher where someone's going to look at that and say, I can't ride that, which means you probably can't ride a lot of the rest of the trail. I know at Mountain Creek, the big jump trail has 2 drops. So you can go to the left, which is a easier or smaller one, or you can go to the right, which is one of the biggest ones on the mountain. So that's a really interesting point. But I'm thinking about all those drops, and I just feel like if you go at trail speed, if you're like going at a good clip on it, that's usually the right speed. It's always, I mean, it's great to get insight from other riders on the mountain, or if you see someone that works there, you know, like what's the speed on this? And sometimes they'll tell you, if you clear this jump, then roll in, you know, like they said at Blue. If you clear the step up jump, that's your speed. Yeah. And we had a hard time when we were doing it. We had a hard time trusting that. Phil told us. Yeah. Clear when you get to the top of the step up, you'll be rolling. That's your speed. And I think all of us were like, a little bit faster, or maybe this is a little too fast, because it just didn't. But that was the speed. That was the exact speed. So if you can get some insight, go on YouTube. I always go on YouTube before I go to a bike park and see if. I love it when someone does a feature and then says, "Oh, that was 2 pedal strokes into that." You know, sometimes you'll hear someone tell you the exact speed that you need for these drops. But I don't want to have to stop at every drop and take a look at it, and just like at Rocky Ridge when it was like, just go with the pop pop, you know, and I finally did the tree one, the pop pop, sorry, not the pop pop, the pop pop. And then I just followed you through the chasm one, the what do we want to call that? What do you call that? Do I have a term? I have no idea. Anyone at Rocky Ridge that's seen it knows what I'm talking about. You can put it in the video. I know is chasm the right word? It's a weird word. Chasm. Chasm? Is that even? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Chasm. Okay.
Is chasm? Is that how you pronounce it?
It's chasm. Yeah, I want to say it's chasm.
The H is silent. CHASM.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Ride Left 1 at Gmail. Phonetically spell this word out for us, please.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Well, I gotta come up with a different word. I don't.
We gotta
come up with a different. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to name
Ride Left 1 at Gmail. If you've been to Rocky Ridge, and I know this is like 1% of our listeners who are local. I don't want to like have this be only a Rocky. Oh, I never ridden there, so I can't relate to these guys. But if it has a name, let us know. If it doesn't, we got to name it. We got to name it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, send us your suggestions after you watch the video. Send us your suggestions, because Sage will show video of what it looks like. You have video of it, I presume, from the side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I got it from the slanted ground ride, too.
Yes. Okay. And then we have POV video of you going over it, and then me going over it. So I did have the camera on when we did that. So, okay. Let us know if it has a name. And if it doesn't, or if you think of a cool name for it, let us know that. But to my point, so once I had the confidence, then I just flowed. I just used that move again, and I flowed with you over it. So when you're at a bike park, can you just be like, no, I'm going to trust the trail speed? It's always good to look before you. I think the bottom line is it's always good to look before you drop, right?
Well, we're going to Creek tomorrow, and I plan on looking. I plan on looking at everything. It's been 2 years, and
but you said you didn't want to look at the.
I know.
What's the name of the drop on Tempest?
Anthem.
The Anthem. You said you didn't want to look at it. That's why I brought this up, because I was like, well, I kind of want to look at it, but I don't want to look at it if you don't want to look at it. Like, if you're confident, I will follow you through it.
I know.
I know it's trail speed. I know it's trail speed.
It's actually more than trail speed. You have to put a couple, because Anthem comes in on a turn. You have to put a couple strokes in on that wooden plank that's forever. I don't know, Danny. I think it's always smart. I think we should be giving the advice that it's always smart to look.
Yeah, that is a great one to get the camera on too, because it's a really cool looking drop. So it's always really cool footage. So we'll let you know next week. We're going tomorrow. So, and this all came together like last minute. Like, we bought our tickets. It's Wednesday. We're going Thursday morning. We bought our tickets at like
5 minutes ago.
6:45. Yeah.
I bought mine while you were talking. Yeah.
Toot toot.
Toot toot.
Yeah. I think the toot toot's getting like cooler as it goes. It's getting a little inflection on it. Toot toot.
Oh, toot toot. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Get some bark to it. Yeah. Yeah. Toot toot. That sounds more marine now. I think we're gonna have to use this tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
A little bit of RC.
Ride left toot toot. Yeah. Ride left. Maybe the ride left toot toot. Like, we joked that the T-shirt would be corny, but if the toot toot, like, if that becomes a thing, it started here.
Yeah.
Everyone listening's like, yeah, Dan, It's not becoming a thing. Nobody's saying that. Start using it. RideLife1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. Let us know. Send us video of you doing something cool, and then a cool toot 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 toot.
You know what, Danny? Yesterday, or was it yesterday? I can't even remember when we rode last, but we had talked about the ew. Remember, you and I don't do ew.
Yes.
That was a thing.
Yes. Yeah,
We
who
missed
remembers
that train. Yeah.
RideLife1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. You remember when people used to go, ooh? Is that what it was? Ew.
No, it was
yeah.
ew. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not ew.
I never
ew.
did it, but then Sage and I were talking how we didn't do it, but then we were also like, yeah, but we didn't really probably do anything cool enough that deserved it.
To deserve that. Yeah.
We weren't you worthy.
We were not.
You know, if we had said it, people might have called us out and been like, it's not really worthy of it. Nah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
limiting the stoke. Stoke is unlimited. We are unlimited. Anything is possible. We've had awesome days of riding. Let us know about your rides. Ride and Laugh1 at Gmail and on the YouTube channel. What are you working on? We're getting so much great feedback. And is the podcast helping you? Any subjects that you want us to address? Anything that's on your mind? Put it in YouTube comments. Ride and Laugh1 at Gmail. We absolutely love hearing from everybody. And thank you for leaving all the reviews and the 5 stars. And if you're on Apple and you want to leave us an Apple review, those are really cool also. So we're having a blast, and we hope that everyone listening knows that anything is possible. Progression is unlimited. And we're all going to get better at riding together. We're all going to have more fun riding together, and more people on bikes, whether you're a beginner or an expert. We're out there to have a good time and sharing the stoke, and life is good. We are mountain biking. It's a great time to be a mountain biker. It's a great time to be alive. There's lots of things going on in the world, but in our world, we're riding bikes and we're having fun and we're flowing and we're progressing. And
we're tooting.
What more could you want? Ride and laugh. Toot, toot.
Toot, toot. Well, once again, Danny, we have blown past our time and we can't get to the ride destinations. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait until we have either a week
No
with
riding.
really. We're gonna have to limit our comments on our listener comments, because we love talking about your comments. So if you write something interesting in, we want to talk about it. Totally, these are great subjects. Yeah. And then we had really good rides this week, and we had progression this week on both of them, and we rode with really cool people on both of them. So we wanted to talk about Terry, and we wanted to talk about Jess, and we appreciate everybody that's out there, everyone that says hi when we see you. And if you've never met us and you're in the Northeast, maybe we'll run into you. So
yeah,
Sage, on that note, life is good. Mountain biking is awesome. Tell me about your mountain bike gratitude of the week.
I'm going to apologize if I steal it from you, but I am really grateful for Blue Mountain Bike Park. I just love it, man. It's only an hour and a half for us, so it really is
not even
an easy drive. Yeah, it's a very easy drive for us, and I love the fact that they keep making improvements. You know, a lot of bike parks, they'll just let it sit. Not these guys. These are guys, and listen, they're for as bad as some of the trails you might think that they are continuing to improve these trails. And I just really appreciate that. They're not just sitting on their laurels, and it's never busy. So go support them. They're doing a great job. The builder's doing great. And the people there are always so helpful. You got people like Phil, you know, and they're all just willing to help you and talk to you. And yeah, just shout out to Blue Mountain Bike Park. I'll leave a link in the description.
They're doing a lot of work there. And yeah, if you happen to live in Southeast Pennsylvania, that's a good little mountain bike park to have. I don't know that I would go like on a real long road trip to hit it, but if you're in the area or you're passing through, Blue Mountain is cool. Yeah. So absolutely excellent gratitude. My gratitude of the week this week is my bike bag. It's this cube, and it's made by a company called Mountain Smith. I don't think they even make it anymore, because I was looking it up. And Ride and Laugh1 at Gmail or on the YouTube comments, what do you use to organize your bike gear? So I have this like square bag that's made by Mountain Smith, and it fits my helmet and my pads. There is a place for shoes, but I've stuffed it full of other things. I keep my shoes separate. But I know some of these bags have like a shoe spot that breathes really well. And if you're like actually flying on a plane and you need to bring everything, I know some of these bags are like really advanced. So what bike bags do you recommend for traveling, but for everyday use? I really appreciate having this bike bag. I bring it with me on every trip, every ride. It just keeps everything organized. I keep everything in the same place all the time. I always know where everything is. So, as I was like lugging this thing back inside for the millionth time, and it's held up for all these years. I think maybe it ripped at one point, and I sewed a handle back on. But for the most part, it's just been really sturdy. And so I didn't see that they were still making it. I think it was called the Cube. But it's a great bag. So I'm curious what everyone else is using. But I do have gratitude for my bike bag that keeps everything nice and organized and tidy.
Well, I have a very silly mountain bike tip, but all of our listeners get the benefit of years and years of highly scientific research done by me. And that is, when we were at Rocky Ridge, how many gnats were all around us, Dan? And we had talked about, one of the bug sprays that we use. But if you want to get away, and we both forgot to put it on, so we were surrounded by gnats.
We were swarmed, yes.
Yes, if you were curious, what is the speed that you have to go to outrun the gnats? It is 7.2 miles an hour, and the gnats cannot follow you. It's scientific. I did the research for you. It's true. So that's the fastest you have to go.
You timed your pet gnats. You took your gnats and you put them at the starting gate, and then you timed them to the finish line.
That's
and
right.
your fastest one, the fastest gnat in your collection, went 7.2 miles per hour.
7.2 miles an hour.
That's an official Trail Sage study on gnat speed.
Can I ask you a question? Do you
the
think
name of your fastest gnat is
Gnat? Nate.
Nate. Nat. You named your gnat Nat? That's like a 3-year-old naming their stuffed bear. Can't name your gnat Nat.
I got a question for you.
Ryan Laugh wanted Gmail. What's the name of the fastest gnat?
When you arrive at the bike park, do you think that you carry the same gnat with you all day? Like, are you assigned, like, is there like a head gnat and he's like, listen,
yes,
Dan is going to be your rider. I'm assigning these 10 gnats to you.
We could do a whole podcast on this because we talked about it so many times on so many rides. There's nothing more frustrating than being at that sub 7.2. By the way, 7.2 is pretty fast for a climb. Like, that's really fast. I mean, I feel so slow. I feel like the same. And when you say bike park, I think you mean trail system, because at a bike park, they're not really a problem. You're going plenty fast at the bike park. But in a trail system, especially, I don't know, other parts of the country, but here in the Northeast, it's hot, it's humid. It's so frustrating when you're like sweating and climbing and they're flying into your eyes and ears and into your mouth. And you're just like, I need to go faster to outrun these things. And you can't. And the question always comes up, is this the same swarm that's around me for 3 hours, or am I riding out of one swarm and into another?
There's like a vortex, and they're like, they stick in the vortex. I don't know how it's done.
It's amazing.
It's crazy.
And there's been times where like you see someone in front of you and they have a cloud of gnats and you don't. And you're just like, oh.
I better put some distance.
And it goes the other way. You're like, I got all these gnats around me. And, other people aren't feeling them. But usually everyone's got their own cloud. It's incredibly frustrating. Yeah.
I know. They have one mission, and that is to fly directly into your eyeball. And if they have done that, they have died an honorable death.
It's a kamikaze. Yes. The kamikaze of gnats. Yes, they are. They yell. What do we joke that they yell Valhalla as they are streaming into your eye? Valhalla! I heard one got in my mouth and I could just hear toot toot. Toot toot. It was so stoked. Gross. Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. That's very interesting. I did not know the exact speed. I appreciate you looking that up.
7.2.
And I feel like that's really fast on some of these technical climbs. Like you just kind of have to suffer with these things flying around your head. Yeah. Yeah, it's part of mountain biking. I'll take it. I love mountain biking enough that I will absolutely take that. Well, if you're listening, you are absolutely one of us. You are a mountain biker, and we appreciate you, and we have gratitude for you listening. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments about anything that we talked about today. Rate and subscribe on your podcast player. Give us a review on Apple Podcast Player, and also like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. Everybody have a great week riding bikes. Ride and laugh.
I'll see you, everyone.